The sun was setting behind the red mountains of Ardent's Reach, painting the sky in orange and violet shades. The wind was dry, carrying fine dust across the colony. Most people had already returned to their shelters. Only Commander Mara Lynn remained near the outer storage bay, checking the supply crates. She had been working on inventory all day. Fuel cells, water filters, emergency kits, food rations. Nothing exciting. The colony on this planet was small, with only 30 people. Life here was hard, but peaceful. At least it used to be. Mara bent over a crate and entered numbers into her datapad. Then she heard it, a soft clink, a noise too gentle to be the wind. She turned quickly. Something or someone was behind the storage crates. "Hello?" she called out, standing still. No answer. She took a slow step forward, her boots crunching, on the dusty ground. Then she saw a small figure dash out from the shadows. It was fast, like a blur, and before she could say anything, the figure grabbed a packet from the open crate and ran. Mara's eyes widened. It wasn't human. It was a child. Thin, with gray skin, large dark eyes, and long fingers. It wore ragged, cloth tied around its body. The creature looked scared but determined. It was holding a ration packet tightly in both hands. "Hey," Mara called, but the child didn't stop. He disappeared into the rocky hills behind the colony, moving quickly. Through narrow paths, Mara didn't hesitate. She grabbed a flashlight and followed. The sun dipped below the mountains and the sky turned deep purple. Mara's flashlight cut through the growing darkness as she followed the small footprints in the sand. The wind howled softly through the rocks, but she didn't slow down. She could have reported it to security, but something stopped her. That child didn't look dangerous. He looked hungry, desperate. The trail led her through narrow canyons and over small ridges. She moved carefully, avoiding loose rocks. After almost 20 minutes, she spotted a flicker of movement near a pile of boulders. She stopped and crouched low. There, just ahead, was the child. He had ducked behind a thick bush near the base of a cliff. Mara slowly moved closer, staying quiet. Then she saw it. Behind the bush was a narrow crack in the rocks, just wide enough to squeeze through. The child disappeared inside. Mara followed at a safe distance. The path inside the rocks led into a shallow cave. It was dry and dark, but she could hear something. Coughing. Mara switched off her flashlight to avoid being seen. She peered around a corner and gasped softly. There was a small nest of blankets and scrap metal in the corner of the cave. The child was kneeling beside a thin figure lying on the ground. It was a woman, also not human. She had the same gray skin and large eyes. Her body looked weak, her face pale. She coughed again, a dry, painful sound. The child opened the stolen ration and held it to her lips. She shook her head slowly, pushing the food back toward him. "Kez," she whispered weakly. "You eat." "No, Mama," the child said. "You first." Mara's heart tightened. She hadn't understood all the words, but the meaning was clear. The child had stolen food not for himself, but for his mother. Mara stepped back, her thoughts racing. These weren't wild creatures or criminals. They were a mother and son trying to survive. She turned and quietly left the cave, her mind full of questions. Who were they? Why were they here? How long had they been hiding, and most importantly, what should she do now? Mara Lynn could not sleep that night. She lay on her cot, staring at the ceiling of her small metal room, listening to the soft hum of the colony generator. Her thoughts were full of the child, Kez, and his sick mother in that quiet cave beyond, the hills. The boy's eyes had not shown fear when she saw him feeding his mother. They had shown love and pain. That moment stayed in her mind like a photo burned into her memory. "They're just trying to survive," she whispered to herself. Colony rules were clear. Any unknown life forms had to be reported. But Mara didn't believe they were a threat. They didn't look dangerous, they looked forgotten. By morning, she had made up her mind. Mara packed some supplies in a small bag: water, medicine, soft food packets, and a portable light. She told The tech team she was going out to test some equipment near the edge of the canyon. It wasn't exactly true, but no one asked questions. She was known for taking long walks alone to clear her head. The sky was still cool when she reached the rocks where she had found the cave. She climbed the same path, stepping carefully. When she reached the narrow crack in the rock, she paused. The silence around her was deep. She turned on her small light and slowly moved inside. The cave was still. Dust floated in the light beam. She stepped around the corner and saw them again. Kez looked up first. His eyes widened in fear and he stepped in front of his mother, holding up his small arms. Mara quickly dropped to her knees and opened her bag. "It's okay," she said softly. "I brought this for you." She slowly placed the food and water on the ground and backed away. She didn't try to get closer. She just sat down and waited. Kez didn't move at first. He looked at her, then at the bag. Then he turned to his mother. She was awake but very weak. She looked at Mara with tired eyes. "I won't hurt you," Mara said. "My name is Mara, I want to help." The mother coughed, then gave a small nod. Kez hesitated, then stepped forward and took the supplies. He brought them to his mother, who drank the water in small sips. She closed her eyes and leaned, back breathing a little easier. Mara watched in silence. She felt no fear, only sadness. This woman had been suffering for a long time. After a few minutes, Kez turned toward her. I am Kez," he said slowly, in a soft voice. His words were not perfect, but understandable. Mara smiled gently. "Hello, Kez. I'm Mara." He nodded, then he pointed to the woman. "My mama, Silla." Silla opened her eyes again. "Human," she whispered. "Why, you here?" Mara leaned forward. "I saw Kez last night. I followed him. I saw you were sick. I couldn't walk away." Silla stared at her for a moment, then closed her eyes. Long time hiding from humans. Mara felt her chest tighten. "Why hiding?" "Old war," Silla said weakly. "Long ago. Dravari people, pushed away. We run. Many gone. Some still hide." "Dravari," Mara repeated. She remembered, hearing that name in old reports. A species once thought to have vanished after a war with early human explorers. "But that was decades ago," she said aloud. "We thought your people were gone." Silla opened her eyes. "Not gone. Just forgotten." Mara sat in silence. She didn't know what to say. The pain in Silla's voice was deep and heavy. How many others had suffered like this in silence? "You need real medicine," Mara said gently. "A doctor, a warm place." Silla shook her head. "No. Humans fear us. They take children, lock them. Not safe." Mara felt anger rise inside her, but not at Silla. At the system. At history. At the mistakes made long ago that still hurt people now. "I'm not like that," she said firmly. "I just want to help. I won't tell anyone." Kez looked at her with wide eyes. "You come back?" "Yes," Mara said. "I'll bring more medicine, more food." Silla nodded slowly. Then, "Thank you." Mara stood up. "Rest. I'll return soon." As she left the cave, the wind blew gently through the rocks. The sky above was bright and blue, but Mara's heart felt heavy. She had found life where none was expected, and now a choice rested on her shoulders. Help them in secret, or trust that others could show kindness too. The next few days passed quietly at Ardent's Reach. Mara Lynn did her usual work, repairing solar panels, checking oxygen systems and writing reports, but her heart was not in it. Her thoughts stayed with Kez and his mother Silla, hidden in the rocky cave beyond the colony. Each evening, when the sun dipped low and shadows stretched across the land, Mara returned to the cave with supplies hidden in a simple gray bag. She brought water, soft food, and medicine she quietly took from storage. Kez now greeted her with a small smile. He had grown a little stronger. He even started asking questions, curious about human life. "Why do you live in square houses?" he asked once, looking at a photo on her datapad. Mara laughed. "We like straight lines. I guess it feels safe." Kez nodded slowly, thinking about it. He pointed at the stars. "We lived in trees before, when sky was green." Mara looked up. The sky here was blue and clear, but in Kez's mind, another world still lived. One evening, Scylla was well, enough to sit up and speak more. Her voice was still soft, but her words were stronger. Mara asked the question that had been burning in her heart since the first day. "Scylla," she said gently, "what happened to your people?" Scylla looked down at her thin hands. Her gray fingers trembled slightly. "We were the Dravari. Long ago, we shared this part of the galaxy with many others. We lived in peace, until the humans came." Mara listened carefully, not interrupting. "Your kind was new," Scylla continued. "Fast, brave, but afraid. You wanted land, minerals. We did not stop you. But some humans thought we were hiding things." Her eyes grew darker. "They attacked. We tried to talk, to explain. But soon, it was war. Short, but terrible. Many Dravari died, others ran, scattered to hidden places. I thought the war ended peacefully." Mara said softly, "that a treaty was signed." Scylla gave a sad smile. "Treaty came after we were broken. Your leaders signed paper, but the people forgot us. We became a story, a warning. You called us extinct." Mara's chest felt heavy. She remembered reading short reports in school about the Dravari human. Conflict, a small forgotten part of history. There were no photos, no videos, only a few paragraphs. Most people believed the Dravari had disappeared. "But you survived," Mara said. Scylla nodded. "Yes, we stayed quiet, moved often. My group found this planet. It was empty, until your colony came." Mara now understood the fear in Scylla's eyes. For years they had lived in hiding, and now they were surrounded by the very beings they once ran from. Back at the colony, things were changing too. Officer Brennick, the colony's chief of security, had started watching Mara closely. He had noticed her going out in the evenings and asked questions she avoided. "Still doing solo hikes every night?" he asked one morning, raising an eyebrow. "Helps me clear my head," Mara answered calmly. He didn't push, but he didn't smile either. Mara knew she couldn't keep her visits a secret forever. She needed to find a way to protect Scylla and Kez before someone else found them. Later that week, Mara sat with Kez outside the cave watching the twin moons rise. The boy sat close to her, chewing on a piece of dried fruit. "Are all humans like you?" he asked. Mara thought for a moment. "Some are kind, some are not, just like any people." Kez nodded. "You are kind," she smiled. "Thank you." "Then," he asked, "will we have to run again?" Mara didn't answer right away. She looked at the stars, shining quietly above them. "Not if I can help it," she said finally. That night, after returning to the colony, Mara opened the old data files from Earth's historical archives. She searched for everything she could about the Dravari War. Most of it was short, cold, and official. Battle dates, casualty numbers, treaties. But buried deep in the files, she found something strange. A report from a human captain written just before the end of the war. It described a peaceful group of Dravari who tried to make contact and were fired upon without warning. The file was marked classified, archived. Mara stared at the screen. The truth had been buried. The Dravari had tried to talk. They didn't start the war. They had been victims of fear, not enemies. She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. The colony thought it was alone out here, safe. But hidden in the rocks just beyond the lights was a piece of human history, one that had never been told fully. Now Mara had to decide whether to keep this secret or bring the truth into the light. The next day, Commander Mara Lynn walked through the colony grounds with a heavy heart. Her boots crunched on the dusty path, and the wind carried a chill. She greeted others with a nod, trying to act normal. But her thoughts stayed on the secret cave, the frightened child, and the truth she had found buried in the old files. The Dravari didn't start the war. They tried to make peace, but history had forgotten that part. Now Mara carried the truth, like a quiet fire inside her, and she knew she couldn't carry it alone forever. Later, while working near the water processors, Officer Brennick approached her again. "You've been busy," he said, arms crossed. Mara kept her tone calm. "Just keeping things running." Brennick's eyes narrowed. "You've taken a lot of supplies from storage lately, medical kits, food. It's not part of your usual inventory work." Mara's stomach tightened. "I've been checking old equipment in the outer sectors. Some things need field testing." Brennick didn't look convinced. "You've been out there every evening, Mara, and now supplies are going missing? Something's not right." "I haven't done anything wrong," she said a little too quickly. He stared at her for a long moment, then walked away without a word. But Mara knew. He didn't believe her. She had to move faster. Time was running out. That evening she packed a larger bag, more food, extra medicine, and a thin emergency blanket. She left early, before anyone could follow her. The wind was stronger than usual as she climbed the rocky path toward the cave. Dust blew in small swirls around her feet, and the sky was darkening fast. When she reached the cave, Kez was waiting at the entrance. "You came back," he said, smiling. "Of course," Mara replied. "I brought more help." They sat near the entrance while Silala rested inside. Her breathing had improved, but she was still weak. "I found an old report," Mara told Kez gently. "It said your people tried to make peace. That humans attacked. First," Kez looked down. "Mama told me. She said some humans were kind, but afraid." "I think she's right," Mara said. "And now, someone in the colony is watching me. I don't think I can keep this a secret much longer." Kez's smile faded. "We have to run again?" Mara shook her head. "No, not yet. I have an idea." The next morning, Mara sent a message to an old friend on Earth, Dr. Elaine Rowe, a researcher who worked in the Interstellar Archives Department. Mara had met her during training. Elaine believed in truth, not cover-ups. "Elaine, I found something. Not just data, living proof. A survivor from the Dravari species. The reports were wrong. They tried to make peace. We need to fix this. I need your help." She added photos of the cave, of Kez's small hands holding a ration, and a voice clip from Silala speaking softly about her people. Then she locked her terminal and went to the command deck as if nothing had happened. But things were already moving. That afternoon, Brennick entered her workshop without knocking. "We need to talk," he said. Mara stood slowly. "About what?" "I followed your trail last night," he said. "I saw the cave." Her heart skipped a beat. "You saw them?" she asked quietly. He nodded. "I did." For a moment, there was only silence between them. Then he surprised her. "They're just people," he said. "That child." He looked scared, but not dangerous. Mara looked at him in shock. "You're not going to report them?" "I should," Brennick replied. "But I saw the way you brought food, medicine. You weren't hiding a threat. You were saving lives." He took a deep breath. "But others won't see it that way. If word gets out without proof, they'll panic. The higher command will order an investigation, maybe even remove them by force." Mara's voice was firm. "That's why I sent a message to Earth, to someone who can help. We need the truth to come from the right people." Brennick looked uneasy, but then nodded. "Then we buy time. I'll say nothing. For now." Back in the cave, Mara told Silala and Kez everything. "You may not need to hide much longer," she said softly. "Help is coming." Silala looked at her with tired eyes. "You risk much for us." Mara smiled. "You would have done the same." Kez held her hand. "Are we safe now?" Mara looked out at the stars rising in the sky. "Not yet," she said. "But soon, I promise." Days passed slowly. The colony continued its work, mining, testing, recording. But Mara Lynn's heart beat faster with each sunrise. She had sent the message to Earth. Now, she waited. Would Dr. Elaine Rowe believe her? Would she come? Would she even be allowed in? The evenings, Mara still visited the hidden cave. Kez was growing stronger. His thin arms had gained a bit of muscle, and his laughter now echoed softly through the rocks when he played with a round stone she had carved into a toy. His mother, Scylla, could now sit up and speak clearly. Her breathing had improved thanks to the medicine, but her movements were still slow and careful. "You gave us hope again," Scylla said one evening, her eyes calm but watchful. Mara knelt beside her. "You gave me something too. A reason to believe in something more than orders and rules." Kez climbed into Mara's lap and held up a drawing he had made with burnt wood on a piece of scrap cloth. It showed 3 figures, a tall human, a small, alien child, and a mother lying beside them. "This is us," he said proudly. Mara smiled and held the cloth close. "It's perfect." Back in the colony, trouble was brewing. Officer Brannick, who had silently agreed to protect the secret, was now being questioned. The supply officers had noticed small items missing again: blankets, nutrient packs, medical strips. "You've been covering for someone," one of them said. "We know it." Brannick only answered, "It's being handled." But whispers started. Rumors spread, and Mara knew it was only a matter of time before someone followed her again. She had to make a decision: stay hidden, or take the risk and tell the truth before someone else did it the wrong way. 3 nights later, while reviewing habitat systems, Mara's comm device lit up. The signal was old and weak, coming from deep space, but it was real. She quickly opened it in private. "Mara, it's Elaine. I received your message. I believe you. I showed the footage to my department. It caused a storm. Some want to help, others want to bury it, but I convinced a small research ship to come. Quietly. We're 2 days out." Mara's hands trembled. 2 days. Real help was coming. She wrote back quickly. "Thank you. They're still safe, but the colony is watching. Me. Come fast, I don't know how long we can keep them hidden." 2 days later, just before dawn, Mara stood near the edge of the canyon watching the sky. A distant shape appeared, a small, sleek research vessel, barely visible against the stars. It landed softly in a dry clearing far from the colony's view. Mara ran to meet them. Elaine stepped out first, wearing a plain gray jacket and carrying a scanner. Her eyes lit up when she saw Mara. "You look tired," she said. Mara laughed weakly. "You have no idea." 2 more researchers followed, quiet and respectful. They carried sealed crates filled with medical tools and communication equipment. "We keep this low," Elaine said. "No press, no government calls, just the truth, seen, recorded, and protected." Mara led them through the canyon to the cave. When Kez saw the strangers, he froze, but Scylla placed a hand on his arm. "It's okay," she said. "These are friends." Elaine stepped forward slowly, her scanner gently humming. "You must be Scylla. It's an honor." Scylla looked at her with sharp eyes. "You come to study?" "I come to learn and help," Elaine replied. "And to tell your story the right way." Scylla nodded once. The researchers worked quietly, scanning Scylla's condition, taking readings and giving her better treatment. They even brought a small heating lamp for the cave's cold walls. Later, Elaine sat with Mara outside the cave, drinking from a water pouch. "You were right to send that message," she said. "But this truth, it's dangerous to the wrong people." Mara looked at the rising sun. "I don't care. If this changes even one policy, even one mind, it's worth it." Elaine nodded. "I'm going to send this data to trusted historians, to scientists, slowly, carefully, but one day, the whole galaxy will know the truth about the Dravari." Mara smiled. "Good. They deserve it. Inside the cave, Kez giggled as one of the researchers showed him how a glowing scanner worked. Scylla watched quietly, her face soft. For the first time in weeks, hope had entered the cave, but hope was fragile. That evening, back at the colony, someone found a trail, footprints, crate markings. A report was filed. And soon a new message was sent, not to Earth but to Sector Command. Something was happening on Ardent's Reach, and not everyone wanted the truth to survive. The air was colder the next morning on Ardent's Reach. The sun was still hidden behind the hills, and long shadows crept over the colony buildings. Inside the command center, a blinking light on the main screen caught the attention of Commander Yelton, the colony's administrator. He rubbed his eyes and leaned closer. Incoming message from Sector Command. Priority level, high. He frowned and opened the file. The report was short but direct. Unknown life form movement detected outside perimeter. Possible native life. Conduct. Investigation. Full scan required. Backup team en route. Yelton sat up straighter. This wasn't just a checkup. Someone above had learned something, and they were taking it seriously. He tapped his console. Officer Brennick, report to the command deck immediately. At the same time, Mara Lynn was walking quickly through the canyon, her boots kicking up loose dust. The stars had just begun to fade in the morning light. She carried 2 small bags, one filled with food, the other with warm clothing for Kez. Her mind raced. The visit from Dr. Elaine Rowe and her team had gone well. They now had data, recordings, and medical readings, all proof that the Dravari were alive and peaceful, but something still felt wrong. As she reached the cave, Kez ran out to greet her. "Mara," he called out. "Elaine gave me this." He held up a small glowing cube. "It plays songs." Mara smiled and ruffled his hair. "That's great, Kez." Inside the cave, Scylla was sitting up with a thin blanket over her shoulders. She looked better, her skin brighter, her voice steadier. But when Mara told them about the possible signal to Sector Command, Scylla's face grew tight. "They will come," she said quietly. "They always do." Elaine, who was also in the cave, looked at Mara. "Then we have to move. We can't let them take control of the story." Back at the colony, Officer Brennick stood before Commander Yelton. "There have been movements outside the colony," Yelton said. "You've seen them too, haven't you?" Brennick hesitated. "Yes, but I investigated. No threat so far." Yelton narrowed his eyes. "You filed no report?" "I was gathering more information." "Well, gather faster. Sector Command is sending a full scan team. I want a secure area cleared for their arrival." Brennick left the command center with a hard look on his face. He walked to a quiet storage unit and opened a hidden comm device. He sent a short message. "They know. We're out of time." That night, Mara met Elaine near the canyon entrance. "We have to move them," Elaine said. "If the scan team finds them, they'll take Scylla and Kez away. For testing, study, maybe even prison." "There's an old tunnel system," Mara said. "It leads to the northern ridge. It's dry, unused, and hidden." Elaine nodded. "We'll help carry them. My ship has enough room for 2 more passengers." Mara looked back toward the colony lights. "They won't just let us go. We're not asking permission." The plan was simple but risky. While most of the colony slept, Mara, Elaine, and 2 researchers returned to the cave with a hover stretcher. Scylla, weak but able to walk short distances, agreed to try. Kez held her hand tightly. As they began their journey through the narrow tunnels, Mara's heart pounded. Every step echoed through the walls, every sound felt louder. Halfway through the passage, her comm buzzed. "Mara, it's Brennick. I know what you're doing. They're sending drones to scan the area. You don't have much time." "Then help us," she whispered. "You saw them. They're not the enemy." There was a pause. "You have 1 hour. I'll delay the drones. But after that, I can't stop them." The group moved faster. The northern ridge was close. When they finally reached the surface, Elaine's ship was waiting, its lights low, engines humming softly. They loaded Scylla and Kez on board. The boy looked out the window at the stars with wide eyes. "Are we flying?" he asked. "Yes," Mara said. "Somewhere safe." Elaine handed Mara a small data crystal. "This has everything: scans, video, interviews, the truth. I'll take it to Earth. You stay here and finish what you started." Mara nodded. "Make them listen." The ship lifted quietly into the air and disappeared into the sky, just as the first drone entered the canyon below. Back at the colony, alarms sounded. "Unauthorized launch detected," someone shouted. Commander Yelton slammed his fist on the console. "Send drones, follow that ship, I want answers now." But it was too late. The ship was gone, and Mara stood at the edge of the ridge, wind in her hair, eyes full of quiet victory. She hadn't saved everyone, but she had saved a child, and told a story no one could erase again. Since the unknown ship had left, security teams worked day and night. Drones flew over the outer zones, scanning every cave, every ridge, every possible hiding place. Commander Yelton demanded answers, but no one had seen where the ship went. And Mara Lynn said nothing. She returned to her duties quietly, fixed water pumps, repaired heating coils, ran safety checks like before. But inside, she felt different. She had helped save a life, a child, a mother, and the truth. Now she just had to survive the storm that was coming. 2 days after the ship's escape sector command arrived, a large silver shuttle touched down on the colony landing pad. Uniformed officers stepped out, followed by serious-looking investigators holding data tablets. Yelton greeted them with stiff shoulders and a sharp voice. "We had an unauthorized launch. Unknown life forms may have been involved." The lead, Officer Captain Reeve, nodded. "We've reviewed the early drone footage. There's something strange in your logs, and one of your engineers, Mara Lynn, appears to be involved." Yelton's eyes narrowed. "She's always been quiet, but good at her job." "Quiet people," Reeve said, "are often the ones with the biggest secrets." That evening, Mara was called in for questioning. She entered the main command hall calmly, her boots dusty from fieldwork. Captain Reeve sat across from her. A recording device glowed on the table between them. "We're not here to punish," Reeve said. "We just want the truth." Mara took a breath. "That's all I ever wanted too." She spoke softly but clearly. About the boy who stole a ration, the cave, the ailing mother, the kindness they showed her, the mistake humans made long ago, blaming an entire species without listening. Reeve didn't interrupt. When she finished, the room was silent. Then he said, "Do you have proof?" Mara reached into her coat pocket and placed a small data chip on the table. "This is a backup," she said, "in case something went wrong." Reeve picked it up, studied it, then looked at her. "Do you understand how serious this is?" "Yes," she said, "and I would do it again." The next morning, the investigators reviewed the data in private. Videos of Kez's bright eyes, recordings of Scylla's soft voice, speaking of peace and fear. Medical scans showing pain and survival, not aggression. A long pause followed. Captain Reeve finally said, "Send this to Earth. Quietly. We'll let the top council decide what comes next." "But what about her?" one officer asked, nodding toward Mara's name on the report. Reeve thought for a moment. "She disobeyed rules," he said, "but she saved lives, and she gave us the truth. That's not something to punish." Weeks passed. Life in the colony slowly returned to normal. Drones stopped flying over the canyon, supplies were restocked, systems were repaired, but something had changed. People began speaking more softly around Mara, not in fear but in quiet respect. Some even started asking questions. What were they like? Were they really afraid of us? "Do you think they'll ever come back?" Mara answered, when she could, sometimes with words, sometimes with only a small smile. One evening, Mara stood at the edge of the same canyon where she first saw Kez run into the shadows. She held the cloth drawing he had given her, now old, but still clear. A human, a child, a mother, all standing, together. Behind her, Brennick walked up and joined her quietly. "They'll probably write books about this one day," he said. "Maybe," Mara replied. "I just hope they get it right." Brennick looked out at the stars. "The truth has a strange way of surviving, doesn't it?" "Yes," she said. "It always finds a way." Far away on Earth, a group of scientists and diplomats watched the footage sent by Dr. Elaine Rowe. They listened to Silla's voice, watched Kez's laughter. Some cried, some argued, but no one could deny it. The Dravari had been wronged. The truth had finally reached the hearts of those in power, and slow steps began to change things. History books were rewritten, peace talks were considered, and a message was sent into deep space in all known languages. If there are Dravari still out there, we are sorry. We seek peace. We seek understanding. We are listening now. Back on Arden's Reach, Mara received a message, a simple one, from Dr. Elaine. They heard, "Kez is safe, Silla is healing, and the truth is spreading. You lit the fire, Mara. We'll keep it burning." Mara smiled. She looked at the stars above and whispered, "Thank you." And somewhere in the sky, far from danger, a little alien boy looked out of a ship window, holding his glowing cube, and whispered back, "Thank you, Mara."